We're good. I was going to share a different story. We are live with Carlos Rodrigues. And it's not Carlo like all my Italian friends. This is Carlos, Portuguese Carlos Rodrigues. I'm thrilled to have you here. And the reason, I'm not just saying that, you stick with things more than maybe anyone I've ever met. You decide you're going to do something and you do it. I mean,
gotta focus.
Gotta focus. Pull in the mic as close as, yeah, there we go. But we were just talking about the difference between Americans and Canadians. And I was at a real estate thing in just outside Chicago. And it was a friend of ours who was out of a Keller Williams brokerage. And he's like, hey, come by the brokerage. I got a bunch of clients coming over and I got a guy coming in to sell. I think it was how to buy. It was right after the financial crisis, and they were doing short sales on real estate or something. I honestly forget the exact strategy, but I remember short sales as being a term. And I went by, and he had a guy come in from about 7 to 9, just talk about how, you could buy these properties and make a lot of money quick. And at the end, I thought he was just going to rap. And he's like, if you want my course on how to do this, it's like $5,000. And I thought, oh my God, $5,000. Like, no one's going to buy this.
That's the cheap side.
Yeah. It might have been more. It might even been more. Half the room gets up with their Visa cards and goes to buy this course. I was completely in shock. I just don't think you can do that in Canada. I think Canadians are just, maybe that's changed. This was, I guess, almost 15 years ago. But I feel like you just can't do that. I was totally shocked. I thought maybe $89. The guy had a little package of some sort he was going to sell, but $5,000 after listening to some guy talk for 2 hours, I was blown away.
Well, I came to my first Rockstar kind of.
Don't throw us under the bus. Don't throw us under the bus.
Gotta go to the back. Gotta go to the beginning. And but it was. I had gone to a Robert Allen thing.
Oh yeah. And I loved Robert Allen stuff.
And they did the whole kind of like, hey, we'll increase your credit card space. Yeah. And they're really slick about it.
I forgot about that.
Then get up. Yeah. It's like, hey, if you're still standing and you're really committed, go to the back and sign up for this $35,000 thing. I'm like, what? I was pissed. I walked right out of the room. Yeah. And then you're
that little trick of increasing your credit card, the balance the credit limit on your credit card that they got you to do the day before or whenever prepare you for the high sale. That was a slick move. I got to admit. I mean, it was a bullshit move, but it was a slick move.
Yeah. But here's the thing. The next day is when I got the when you guys were doing fax blasts. And I'm the last guy. It was Friday. It's the summertime. I should be out, with the boys going to the bars and whatever. And here I am on a Friday doing paperwork. And sure enough, this Rockstar thing comes up, and I see it looks like there's doodles on it. And it's handwritten. It looks like there's a coffee stain on it. I'm like,
I forgot about that.
What is this bullshit? And, I don't normally pick up stuff off the fax when you start reading it, and you guys are bashing financial planners. And I'm like,
are you sure we were bashing financial
planners? Oh, yeah. Your financial planner, this, really? This, and then he doesn't know what he's talking about.
And so for everyone listening at the time, Carlos was a financial planner.
I was 20 years until 2019. I was a financial planner. I was a money guy as well. I mean, doing life insurance or whatever, but my thing were investments. And I was like, okay, that's fine. They're going to have a little thing on, a couple days down. I'm coming.
Dude, I don't know how we pissed you off, but you didn't just stop there. You said, I'm going to fucking come to this. I'm going to come and tell them what's what.
I was waiting to hear something about a financial planner. And I was like, man,
I don't think we bash financial planners.
Someone's going to have a bad day. And it was both you and Nick there, And I'm like, if this comes up, they're going to have a bad day.
And did we?
I started listening. I'm like, rent to own. And I'm like, this makes sense. It's numbers? Okay. And I'm like, wait a minute. Let's hear the final pitch. And he starts the third. I think you were putting out the price. It was $30 a month.
$29, $29.95. That was our.
And I was waiting for the 1,000, and I'm like, $30 a month. This guy. Let me check this out. And that's when I signed up, and I'm like, what is it, like 16, 17 years now?
Oh, yeah. That would have been around 2007, 2000. Yeah, probably 2007. I think you crossed paths with us. Maybe 2008, something like that.
Yeah. First year was the regular membership, then made the move to VIP.
VIP, yeah. You became, and that VIP, that was, I think that was Sergio who said, hey, can we just get a bunch of us together. And then we started meeting for pancake breakfasts for a little while. Then we did some dinners. We met in the office and we did some stuff for VIP. That was fun. Looking back, that was ridiculous. It was such a good core group of us. So many of those people like yourself are still with us today. Like we all hang out still kind of in the Rockstar sphere, and you guys have done a bunch of incredible stuff. And so you were buying properties in Ontario, Hamilton Mountain. You were renovating them yourself.
Yep. Typical pork chop. Don't want to hire it out. You know what I mean? You gotta. No, you want what for what? No. I can do that better.
I remember working on the construction site with my father, and that was like you're thrown into the wolves on a construction site, and you learn, and all the different like kind of ethnic backgrounds. They all worked together. Like the Portuguese were like laying bricks on these condominiums. The Italians were kind of bricks, but they were more the cement foundation for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. The Croatians were in the drywall and taping. So you kind of got this idea of like who was doing what. You know, and they all kind of stayed to their own groups, and you would go and listen to what they were saying. Nobody spoke English, but they all complained about their soccer team. Like it was all the same complaints. Like their soccer team was garbage, and they should be doing better. Coach should be fired. Everyone was saying the same things in their different groups, in their different languages, right?
Exactly.
And no one trusted any other group. It was like, holy crap, there's the Portuguese guys over there. Don't leave your tools over there. And the Portuguese guys, once I got to know them, they're like, oh yeah, we can't leave our tools. The Croatian guys are going to steal those in a second. You know, no group kind of. It was like a microcosm of the world. I learned so much on the construction sites. Oh my gosh. I remember one time on a construction site, I think our father's drywall business at that time, he had like half union guys and half non-union guys or some mix like that. And the union was pulling up to this job site and the super of the job site closed the big fences around the job site to kind of keep them out. Oh, and our father went on the outside of the chained fences to talk to the union. And when the union rolls up on a job site, these aren't like the most polite individuals. These guys are tough dudes rolling up. And our father was surrounded by like 20 guys. And isn't the Toronto Star there taking pictures? The next day, our dad was on our page 3 of the Toronto Star, holding his hard hat, like yelling at some guy, right? Can't even remember how it all got resolved. But anyway, wild times in the construction industry. So you started buying properties in Hamilton.
Yep.
And with the goal of what? To just hold them and rent them out? You were going to buy them, reno them?
It was, I mean, the renovations came later on, but at first it was just simply to build wealth, you know, to bring in. I mean, at that time, when I bought my first rental property, I was still struggling as a financial advisor. Everything's commission, right? It's struggling to build my business, so needed other avenues of income. Had recently got married, you know, at that point. We didn't have kids just yet, but still, you know, when I bought my first house and I'm on commission and my wife's like, no, we're not getting a duplex. Nobody else is paying for it. I'm like, how am I going to pay for this? And anyways, it evolved to the point where using the strategies at that point, we could do that 5% down, you know, do it a couple of times and get some cash flow coming in. That was the main thing, you know. It was just to build a little bit of wealth, build a little bit of income coming in, and went from there. And I think I ended up making more money in real estate than I ever did as a financial planner. I mean, I still did well, but
you kind of caught lightning in a bottle a little bit, because property prices right when you were diving in on Hamilton kind of went. I don't know when you started buying, and we're going to get to, I want to talk about Ohio in a second, but in Hamilton you were buying probably like 200, like around 220, 225, 230.
Yeah, the first one we bought as far as rental property was 250. 250.
Okay, yeah. So 250, and then right after 250, over the next 5-6 years, they just started going. That's when I think at the time Mark Carney was the Bank of Canada governor, and they just ripped interest rates to the very bottom, and property prices just started skyrocketing. So you kind of like got in at the magical moment. Like the timing on that was pretty perfect.
Yeah, my first mortgage was I paid an interest rate of 1.25%.
Come on.
It was prime. It was variable, and it was prime minus 1%.
Wow.
And that was the last, RBC gave me that, and it was the last, the guy said that was his last variable mortgage that he could do at prime minus 1%.
Wow.
And I mean, I was paying more principal off than interest. you know, and I mean, you're giddy.
Those were wild.
Oh yeah, it was fun.
I remember that era, right around that era. I think they stopped it around 2008 or 2009 or 2010, right around there, when you could do 0% down and 5% down as an investor. The CMHC fees were through the roof, but you could do, and then Jim Flaherty. So maybe I can't remember what year it stopped, but that was also insane.
I never got the 0% down. I wish I did.
Zero existed for a little while. I mean, the CMHC fee on it was huge, but then there were some credit unions doing it, because I remember a friend of mine got it through a credit union. He did. It was, it wasn't a longer amortization period. His rate was a little higher than we were expecting. He got a 25-year amortization. He was trying to do 30, 35. They were also doing like 30, 35, even 40-year amortizations back then. But he got a 25-year amortization, but 0% down. That was also when we were getting and negotiating for the seller to pay for our closing costs.
Yes.
And the banks kiboshed that. I think around 2012, the banks were like, listen, you can't have that anymore. But that was magic when we were buying them that low in the seller. Did you get any of those or no?
I had one where the seller, and I remember Andrew McDonald was my realtor at the time, and I remember her coming back. She's like, yeah, they don't understand what we mean by, you know, them paying for your closing costs.
And it was all documented.
Yeah.
It was all on the offer.
Yeah. But it was, I mean...
That was wild for a little while.
Oh.
When we were doing I remember there was investor programs, 5% down. The seller was paying for our closing costs. We were doing rent to own, and then on a rent to own, you might have a tenant give us like $10,000 to $15,000. So you were walking into these properties almost with zero out of your pocket. It was insane. Like looking back, it's like, you know, when you're so naive at something, you don't even realize what you're doing. But looking back at that era, it's like, holy shit, what were we doing? And it was everything was on the up and up, all on paper. There was no kind of funny business going on. But at the time, it was like, holy shit, how are we pulling this off?
And that's the thing. Now you kind of look back and it's like, man, if I only knew then what I know now.
The street.
I would have been crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
So I do want to get into Ohio. So like, is the context of you spending time in Hamilton, buying properties, fixing them up, renting, doing different stuff? How did that kind of segue over into Ohio? Like what was this? Was it observations that you took from here to take a look at Ohio, and then you saw similarity? Like what is it? How did you get there? What are you doing on Ohio, first of all? And then, like, how did you analyze it?
Well, I mean, now I'm just building a portfolio down there. You know what I mean? And I started at the end of 2019. It was kind of the scenario really was out of anger because for the longest time, trying to build a portfolio here would prefer, it was like, oh, you should see, what the United States is looking at, like, and, go down there and see what's what. Like, no, I've got plenty of opportunity here in Hamilton alone. I can do my thing. And even St. Catharines, Thorold, blah, 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 had plenty of opportunities. But it was always, as a self-employed individual, it didn't matter how successful I was, making an income or whatnot, the banks always kind of said no. And I had to get creative. And it kind of got to the point where I'm still able to buy the properties, but I can't hold them long term because they're not cash flowing enough, or for whatever reason, I can't get the financing. Why can't I get the financing? So
you mean even to like refinance and get some equity out of a property in Canada, you couldn't get the financing for that?
Nothing. It was. I mean, it got to the point where I was trying to refinance my own house, and I had the best year I had ever had as far as make income. And and keep in mind, I was a mortgage broker at that time, but it was more so for raising money for different developers and things of that nature. So I never liked the mortgage business. It's a very kind of...
It's a tough business.
Dare I say corrupt to a point where I didn't want to deal with it. So I would give my business to other...
You mean corrupt in just that, like, there's just shady shit going on at all
Shady shit going on in the background. I mean, just even some lenders, it's like, oh, you can't deal with us directly. You have to deal...
Oh, okay, got it. So there's politics in it. You got it.
Whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like, just let's do business. And it wasn't like that. So... those that were better set up for it, I would give them my own personal business and kind of like, listen, run with it. And when the guy came back and says, listen, Carlos, the only thing I can get you is a not a readvanceable mortgage. It was a reverse mortgage.
Okay.
I'm like, a reverse mortgage? I'm not retired.
Yeah.
I'm
in my prime here.
I'm in my prime here. I've made more money than I've made ever before, and you guys I can't get a mortgage anywhere. Mm-hmm. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So from there, it was kind of, you saw what was happening with interest rates and the potential for inflation to start getting crazy at that point. I was like, okay, well, you kind of see the writing on the wall and said, listen, if I'm going to maintain my portfolio here, things are going to get a little bit snug at some point in the future, potentially, and maybe beyond that. So, I made the decision. It was a tough one, but I sold the majority of my portfolio up here. And I mean, the last one that I sold, it was right. If I had waited even a week for a better offer, I would never have gotten what I got for the house.
So what's that, 2021?
2018.
Oh, back then, February, 2018. So you sold it all back then.
Yeah. February. It was the first week of February. If I didn't sign those documents at that point, I would have been $200,000 less. And anyway, got that done. Took that money, started looking for an alternative, and at that point, it's kind of like, okay, let's broaden the horizons here. There's other countries on this planet that real estate is being done. Closest one, let's go to the United States. Let's see what's happening there. Started looking at different events, meeting different people. Finally, kind of landed on the Midwest. Started looking around. So, okay. What's Ohio like as far as landlord rules? Is this friendlier? Yes, it is. Much easier.
Why? Is there anything that stands out around that?
Well, if somebody, for example, wasn't to pay rent, you don't have to go to a landlord-tenant board. It's done through the courts, and it's much faster.
Got it.
I mean, you could have, if from the day that somebody doesn't pay you your rent to the point that they're out would be about 3 weeks at its fastest, I think.
Got it.
And it was much more, this is the landlord's property as far as, the ideas down there. And just managing things was much easier. Even getting financing, doing creative deals.
Why is the financing easier?
DSCR loans, right? They're looking...
Can you explain that for people?
A DSCR loan, basically the bank or the lender is looking at the ratio between expenses and the income that the building brings in. So typically it's like 1.2% or 1.25%, or excuse me, not percent, $1.25 for every dollar of expenses. If you meet that, they'll give you the loan, right?
And did that apply to buildings? Can you do that on single family homes with their financing too, or no?
Normally I've only done it with residential properties up to quads right now.
Okay.
Once you get to the 5 units, you're into the commercial end. I haven't really gone down that road.
Okay, but they were doing that type of lending up to like for 3 units, 4 units.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know if they do it on single family homes?
Absolutely, they do.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, but
so there's no income requirement. They're just looking at the income versus the expenses on the property. They decide, I guess, what the income is. You can't tell them what the lease is going to be.
Oh, yeah. Well, they still look at what the average is in the area.
Okay.
They'll pull up and do.
But you can tell them what you're getting, or
exactly. You're typically not supposed to get these, this financing until you've got a lease in place.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. So if you're doing the burst strategy, you've done your renovations.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. Once you have the lease, then okay, here's proof, and then they'll verify as far as, does the market sustain this?
Yeah.
Right. Is he actually getting this number? But frankly, from 2019 until now, I've never once had to prove my income.
Wow.
Not even showing one paper as far as my income is concerned.
Yeah, for Canadians to hear, that's shocking.
Right?
So they're really just looking at these properties and they're lending on the property, the income and the expenses on the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, I haven't gone to the banks yet, to get that better rate or whatnot. Typically, as a foreign national, and that's anybody without a green card, So myself, as with the E2 visa, I'm still a foreign national, but I've opened up a few doors.
So how are you getting the financing if you're not going to? You said you're not going to the banks yet.
I'm not going to the banks.
Where are you going?
There's a ton of lenders though.
Okay,
they have they call it something else. It's kind of like our mortgage investment corporations.
Okay,
there's a ton of those. And they have programs.
So private companies looking to lend out money, here's their criteria. They decide they're not typically a bank.
Exactly. You might pay 1 or 2% more as far as the interest rate that you're paying, and a couple of points on the front end or back end. But at the end of the day, I've been given mortgages at 9% and still cash flowing.
Got it.
A lot.
Okay. Let's. What type of property is that then? Have you honed in on a single family, duplex, triplex, quad? Like, what's the property you like?
I've kind of purchased all of those.
Yeah, but there's got to be one that you're like, this is the sweet spot.
Duplexes.
I
like duplexes.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly share my personal journey with the Rockstar Inner Circle. I joined Rockstar when I was 23 years old because I wanted to learn how to invest in real estate, and I was looking for the right people to guide me. What I didn't expect was how much more the Inner Circle would give me. It's not just about investing, it's about being a part of a community that is genuinely invested in each other's success. I've learned so much here, from real estate strategies to understanding the economy, personal finance, and how the whole money system works. I've gained the knowledge to build my own business, create my own assets, and leverage the biggest trends in the world. But more than that, it's the growth mindset and personal development that have transformed how I approach life and investing. Having a community of like-minded people to share wisdom, experiences, and lessons with has been invaluable. From finding tenants and growing a real estate portfolio to designing the life you want, it's been a game changer. Being part of the Inner Circle has completely changed my perspective on money and life. The insights I've gained have helped me make smarter decisions, and I'm now way more confident in my financial future. If you're ready to level up your investing, mindset, and your life, I can't recommend the Rockstar Inner Circle enough. It's not just a membership, it's an opportunity to design the life you want. Thanks for letting me share this with you, and I hope to see you in the Inner Circle soon. If you're curious to learn more, feel free to check out rockstarinnercircle.com/get-started for free resources and see if it's the right fit for you. Now back to the show.
Because the income's good.
The income's good.
What are you purchasing them for? I know different areas of Ohio. Can you give me a ballpark price just for context so we can imagine what you're doing over there?
So Cleveland, I'm primarily in Cleveland.
Outside of Cleveland or right in Cleveland?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I know some areas outside of Cleveland, like Euclid and Mentor.
Okay, those are our suburbs of Cleveland.
Yeah, but you're right in Cleveland proper.
I'm all over the place, really. As in Cleveland, the greater Cleveland area.
Okay.
Typically on the west side is the more desirable area.
Is it? Okay.
Right?
So when I'm saying Euclid and stuff, that's on the east side of Cleveland.
It's on the east side.
I don't know the west side of Cleveland.
It's still kind of, it's on the outskirts, and it's still really nice for rentals and whatnot. You can find some nice stuff. Kind of the price point starts to go up a little bit there, but the really depressed areas are East Cleveland.
Okay.
Excuse me. Where else East Cleveland is kind of the one that sticks out.
Okay.
And you can still find some great deals and make a ton of money there, but you're getting into areas where, crime is a little bit higher. And, at first when I bought my first one, I made the mistake of trusting the realtor too much. Yeah. And, kind of like, it's an up and coming area. Yeah. and I was like, oh, okay. And I was kind of dumbfounded with the numbers that she was giving me. I bought my very first property in Cleveland was a duplex. Each apartment was 1,000 square feet.
Okay.
3 bedrooms apiece, right? In really great shape. Outside it looked horrible, but that's what renovations are for.
How much was it?
$35,000.
Oh shit!
Right?
Yeah.
And the rents that you could get, and I was already kind of moving towards that subsidized housing, Section 8.
Okay.
Where the government pays you directly the rents that you're asking, and it's based on the tenant's income to a certain point, but it seems very loosely. I have tenants that they pay $9 of the entire rent.
And then the government pays the rest.
right?
So when you get to that type of housing, we'll go back to your properties in a sec. When you get to that type of housing, someone signs a lease. What, you take the like? How does the government know to deposit you? They have to take your bank information and give it to
basically the tenants have applied for these
Section
vouchers.
8 housing. Okay.
Yeah, these vouchers. So they have a voucher that says you can apply for an apartment or a house up to 3-4 bedrooms, whatever the circumstances.
Okay.
They can take something lower if they want, but going higher, I can't remember what the rules are on that, but typically somebody's not, they have a 3-bedroom voucher, they're not going to a 4-bedroom.
Sure.
Right. So, and then Section 8 will say, okay, this is the maximum that we'll pay for a 3-bedroom apartment in that area. Sometimes they break it down by zip code.
Oh, wow.
Some zip codes are better than others, right? So in this particular area where I bought the first one, the maximum at the time was $1,250 for a 3-bedroom apartment.
Okay.
So $1,250. I bought it for
35 grand.
I'm gonna. You just yeah. I still put $60,000 into the property, and I mean on that property, if there was a mistake to be made, I hit it face first. You know what I mean? Wrong property manager, wrong project manager, wrong.
Oh, jeez. Okay, you were paying for your education.
And then some. I mean, the guy that I hired to be my property manager ended up walking away with $30,000 of mine.
No.
He's on the run, from the law.
Because what, he was collecting the rent?
Well, he was also my project manager.
Okay.
So it was his property management company that we were using his services to do the renovations. Checked him out completely. You know what I mean? I'm not an idiot. You check people out that you don't know. And I mean, 35 reviews, government contracts. I'm making phone calls, verifying everything. And, it comes to the day. It was a whole dramatic. We could do a podcast on just the story.
And you're up here because you're living in Hamilton area.
Yeah.
And you're calling down there and you can't find the guy.
Well, I mean, it ended up that I went down the one time and he wasn't able to check on the project.
Yeah.
Right. They had been, working on the house now for 2 weeks. And so I was like, okay, I want to see what's what. Go down there, and the guy's name, the property manager, his name was James. He was like, James couldn't meet with me. He was really busy, but go and talk to Tony, who was the contractor. Okay, meet Tony, blah blah blah, and kind of exchange information. Saw what was going on. Okay, this is looking good. Tony's partner couldn't meet with us either because his mother was in the hospital.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine, and everything looked the way it should be. Go home from that trip. A week later, I get an angry phone call from Tony. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, James isn't paying us the money that we need to keep the job going. I'm already $1,600 in the hole on your project. Okay, let me get in touch with James. So we're going back and forth. And I'm like, don't talk to James just yet. Don't tell him anything that you've talked to me. Let's see what's happening here, and maybe James will hang himself. And, it ended up turning out that James was trying to get rid of Tony, bring in a cheaper guy, and pocket the difference.
Oh, shit.
But through this whole process, he ends up, like, I send him down an email, and I'm like, listen, James, I haven't had a report yet. Send me some pictures on what's happening, and I'd like an accounting of the money that I've given you to get this project going, like how much has been spent and what's what. I don't hear from the guy for 2 weeks. He was supposed to give me the update a week later. I don't hear from him for 2 weeks. He's not going like, I'm ready to go down.
How long's the drive? What is it? 4.5 hours to get there?
Well,
like that?
when you're pissed, 3.
Yeah, 3 hours.
So anyway, kind of went down there and I'm like, James, I want to have a conference call with you, the contractor, to see what's going on. Tell Tony. And I've always been dealing with Tony. His partner stays in the background. He doesn't like to deal with people, whatnot. He just wanted to do the work and be done with it, right? So I had never met or spoken to this guy yet. So the phone call comes up, and Tony's not on the call. And it ends up being the partner on the phone call with us. I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of odd. Tony was supposed to be here. Tony, what was the guy's name? Anyway, it's not important. But he's like, I'm so sorry that we're behind schedule on your project. My mother ended up dying. You know, she was in the, like, he had gone to the hospital because she had some problems with breast cancer and whatever. And he's like, yeah, she ended up passing away, and that's why I haven't been on the job. But if you give me 10 days, we'll be back on track. Okay. And you can tell from the voice. I have all this recorded. You can tell from the voice that I'm dealing with, you know, a young black Cleveland guy. All right. Well, I can't really, you know, nail this guy for not getting the project done if my mother, you know, had.
Yeah, he had reasons.
Yeah. So, put that down, and later on that day, I call up Tony. I'm like, Tony, what's going on? You weren't on the call. I was talking to your partner, and this is what happened. And he said, you know, his mom had passed away. Tony starts laughing. I'm like, why are you laughing? He goes, I don't know who you were talking to, but that wasn't my partner. So,
holy shit!
You know,
and you were through a lot, so it was a big setup. Okay, yeah. I want to skip through the rest of this though. The horror story. Do you still own this property?
Still own it, and it's cash flowing like a bandit.
Okay, because you fixed it up. You have the Section 8. I still don't understand when someone has Section 8, who takes that paperwork to where to get the rent deposited? Do you take the paperwork and file it somewhere to get the rent deposited into your bank account?
Now I have a property manager that is a good.
So the tenant gives you some Section 8 type paperwork.
Correct.
You take the paperwork somewhere, file it, and then that gets then the money from the government going into your bank account.
Yeah. Each municipality has their own Section 8 kind of institution that you deal with. So all the paperwork is done through them. And once that's completed, they come in and they'll inspect the property.
Okay.
To meet, you know, they're pretty picky sometimes on what they're looking at, but you know, the property manager that I have, she'll have a guy that fixes all the stuff right there.
Okay.
So you're not wasting any time. Once you get the approval from Section 8, tenant moves in, and
so then you discover this Section 8 thing kind of almost like in real time with this property. And then this is something you decide that you're going to stay with this strategy because now you have the rent coming from the government.
Yeah, I had found a mentor that did the majority of his real estate investing was done through Section 8.
Okay, so then do you stay in that area of Cleveland, or is this when you go to the west side of Cleveland because you like that area?
At this point, it's just finding the appropriate properties because it doesn't matter where you are.
Okay.
You don't have to stay in an area for Section 8.
So if somebody's coming to you now, a friend here who doesn't know that area, and says, okay, Carlos, I want to get a duplex. Where are you taking them?
Well, first on the tours that I end up doing, we show everything, right? Just so that they understand this is a good spot.
Okay, so you're going all around the Cleveland area.
Correct.
Do you go to Cincinnati in Ohio at all? No, Cleveland's your area.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, there's not enough time in a weekend, you know, to do more than one city. So to really kind of get into the nitty gritty, the Cleveland area, I mean, there's a lot of
more than
sprawl. There's more than enough. Absolutely.
Okay. So when you're getting these duplex, and is duplexes something that is like, it looks like a Canadian duplex, or no? How do these duplexes look from the outside?
There's a lot of purpose-built stuff because
so side by side, up and down duplex.
You'll get both, but the majority is going to be up and down.
Okay.
What is it, like 56% of the population in the greater Cleveland area rents.
Holy shit. Okay.
So there's a huge rental market.
Okay.
Section 8 has something like 15,000 vouchers out there in that area. You don't necessarily have to rent just to them, but I like that because
your rent's guaranteed, basically.
Rent's guaranteed. You still have to vet the tenant.
Until Trump comes in and says it's not guaranteed anymore. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Why are you going to do that?
I know. I'm joking.
That was yesterday.
I'm joking. Okay. So Section 8 housing all around Cleveland. Oh, purchase price. I know you bought that one for $35,000, but what's like a more like if I said, hey, Carlos, I want to get one, get me like a slightly better area. Well, how much is it today?
You wanted a turnkey duplex.
Yeah.
In a nice area.
Yeah.
Right now you're probably about 170.
170. I can go to one of these, not a bank, one of these private type lenders and get financing on that with how much of a down payment?
If you're brand new, I would expect 30% down payment.
30%. My status in the U.S. has to be. I know you have legal status through an E2 visa down there. Would I have to have legal status down there?
Anybody can buy.
Really?
You don't need any kind of special visas. Nothing.
So I can walk in as a Canadian, say I want to buy this $170,000 U.S. duplex. I want to put. Did you say 30%? Sorry,
30%.
30% down, and they're going to be like, yes, that's fine. I can go to a bank as a Canadian and open a bank account in Ohio somewhere?
That's the difficult part.
Okay. Is that why you got the E2 visa, to get some status down there?
I mean, every little bit that I took as far as the E2 visa and all this other stuff was to gain more access, to open up another door.
Okay.
But as far as opening up your own personal bank account, frankly, you can do that through all the Canadian banks. Everybody's got a subsidiary down in the United States that you can open up an account through.
Is that what you did at first?
At first.
So what's the name of the, like, what is an example? What bank? What's the name of the bank?
RBC Georgia. Like, I like RBC.
Okay.
So you call them up. You got to be very specific, because the person on the phone sometimes
doesn't know what's going on.
They're like, oh, you want a U.S. account on Canada in the Canadian side? No. You want a U.S. account
on the American side. As a Canadian.
As a Canadian, exactly. And so they'll put you in touch with RBC Georgia.
Oh, wow. Who operates in Ohio?
All over. All over the United States.
I've never even heard of it. RBC Georgia operates all over the U.S. Okay.
Yeah. It's all done over the phone as far as RBC is concerned. And while I was on the phone opening up that personal checking account, which I don't think I pay anything for that checking account.
Okay.
They'll offer you a line of credit and a visa as well. And
Come on, a visa too?
Yeah, a line of credit and a visa. So very important if you're trying to build up, a credit profile down there. It's not necessarily reporting anywhere just yet, but you're building experience on the file, right? You're building a track record. And if and when you get the ITIN number, which is ITIN or social security number, depending on, if you get your E2 visas or whatever. But if you
ITIN's like your tax number.
Correct. But it's a tax number for somebody who doesn't qualify for a social security number. So if you're doing business on Amazon down in the United States and you have to do your tax return to the IRS, you would get an ITIN number.
As an E2 visa holder, you get an ITIN number, don't you?
No, you get a
social security.
You can apply for the social security.
You can apply. Yeah. But when you first set up your corporation down in the U.S. for the E2 visa, I felt like you got an ITIN number.
EIN. It's the employment identification
that's right.
number.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's essentially your social security number for your company.
For the business. Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's another area as far as building credit. You can have your business credit profile and your credit profile are completely separate.
Okay.
So you could have destroyed your credit personally and have fantastic business credit. And credit cards, credit
they look at it differently
for each one.
Okay. So then you started by going down there as a Canadian, RBC, a bank like RBC Georgia, to get a bank account. You go to these lenders. You're like, yeah, I have a bank account. Here's my RBC Georgia bank account. I guess then you have to wire money from Canada down to the U.S. to kind of get it into this RBC Georgia bank account, I'd imagine.
Yep.
And then you're basically an investor in Ohio.
Exactly. It's really that simple. I mean,
the exchange rate right now, you were doing it with a better exchange rate than today as we're speaking, when the exchange rate is like the most horror exchange rate known to humankind.
Yeah. Now it's moving money back this way. That you kind of sit there going,
now you're happy. Yeah. Carl laughing. Just laugh. I know I have a few friends who have different investments in the U.S. Some hold a bunch of stocks and get dividends in the U.S. In the U.S. dollar. And they're all laughing right now too. They're enjoying it. But I got to think Trump is going to weaken the U.S. dollar right now over the next year. So we'll see. But I think then Canada is going to further weaken the Canadian dollar. So even if the exchange rate gets a little better on the Canadian side, I think it's going to get right back to where we are in short order, within a year or something like that. So
right now it's a 44% bump on everything that I bring over.
Yeah.
But on average, it's been about 32%.
Yeah, good for you. Awesome.
Which has been great. But just from the standpoint of doing business down there, it seems like they get it. Right? It's a bit faster, a little easier. It is. A few differences as far as when you buy a house. You can do the legal work through a lawyer like we do up here.
Okay.
But more often than not, they're using a title company, which frankly
So can
has
you walk
their own lawyer do.
Okay, so can you walk us through the closing day? Like, what is that, or the closing process? You're engaging. Do you hire a title company?
Yeah, you can use your own.
Okay.
You can use one that's provided. Like when if you're putting in an offer, one of the lines in there is what title company you want to use. If you have a preference or whatnot, there are definitely good ones and really bad ones.
Sure, but the title company is the one walking you through the closing process?
Yes.
Okay.
They'll just basically ask you for different requirements. It's nothing a well-educated person couldn't handle.
Okay.
Right.
So you don't really need a lawyer in this whole process.
The lawyers,
as part of the title company. Because the title company is insuring this whole thing.
Correct.
So that no one really cares. I don't want to say no one really cares, but basically, as long as you have title insurance, the lender is like, I don't care. As long as there's a title company here that's insuring this whole thing, if there's a screw up, I know I'm covered.
Yeah.
So
Like
who's your title company? And if you don't have one, here's a title company you can use.
Right. Like up here, your lawyer will have the trust account.
Yeah.
There, they call it an escrow account. It's held by the title. The title company is the one that takes care of all of that.
Okay.
You're wiring money through the title company.
Here we're using a lawyer and then getting like title insurance.
Correct.
It seems like there the title companies have said, screw just selling the insurance. We'll just handle this whole process.
Exactly. And I mean, if you're buying a property and you have financing, I would get ready to either go to the U.S. consulate up here, or be signing in front of a notary in the United States. None of the lenders down there will allow you, at least none that I've found, will allow you to close a property on Canadian soil remotely.
Interesting.
Right? So every time I close on a property, I have to go across to Niagara Falls. I have a notary there.
Okay.
Sign back across the border.
Got it.
And, but as far as doing your banking, it's all online.
It's all online. Yeah. And some of the online services, like we're using, I think there's like a bunch of US ones now that are just absolutely incredible that cover, have you heard of Mercury Online? Mercury Online seems like a pretty good one, like just a beautiful website, bank. It's just looks easy to use. Canada, Nick was finding out there's a couple Canadian companies. One of them I think is called Loop or Loop Financial that allows Canadians to have US credit. You have this one account, but you have the ability to get a Canadian credit card, American credit card, Euro credit card, and a UK pound credit card.
Yeah.
All under this one login.
They make the conversion.
They make all the conversions. You have this one account. Like this wasn't, but that actually, as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that's available only for businesses in Canada.
That's Vault.
Oh, that's a different one. Vault.
That's the one I use.
Okay.
But you have to have a Canadian corporation.
Correct. Yeah. So we found Vault too, but Loop is similar.
Yeah.
So Vault. I think Vault's even bigger. I think it's even better actually. From what I understand.
I mean, especially when you're doing converting money. You
can just get a better rate. We didn't realize that when we started converting money, we were at first just using the banks to send euros around to Europe if we had to do that and stuff. But when you start converting money in any capacity that's more than like a few bucks for a quick vacation, it's way better to use a service that's going to give you a better rate. You could save thousands depending on how much you're converting. You can save thousands. So Vault does a good rate. There's Knightsbridge downtown Toronto, where you can open an account and you basically send money from your Canadian bank account. And if you have a US bank account in Canada at RBC or TD, they send you back the American dollars and the rate's way better. It takes like 2-3 days, but it's a better rate. But Vault, I feel is like even faster.
Vault was faster. And as far as the rates that you're getting, Knightsbridge is good, but Vault is the way to go. I mean, Knightsbridge was just a smidge better than the banks. With Vault, I mean, if the banks are charging you 3%, even if they're saying, "Oh, there's no fees."
Sure.
Bullshit. Vault was giving me 0.3%.
Yeah. Wow.
Like it was almost on par with the apps that you pull up.
Yeah, got it.
It was a couple of cents off.
So now you could be using an American credit card to do your expenses and stuff down there, and you don't have to, because for forever we've been using Canadian cards in the U.S. And then you're just getting dinged so badly on that. So now you're earning income in Ohio. You have a credit card that's in American dollars. So you can kind of be you're basically extracting yourself out of the Canadian dollar shit coinery. No, really, that's what you've done. You've just kind of you're moving your wealth creation, your income creation into a better currency, basically. That's what you're doing.
Yep.
You're sidestepping the garbage Canadian dollar and creating more and more of your life in American dollars.
Exactly. And I mean, think about it. If you're doing business with different apps, typically you're paying in American.
Yeah.
Anyways, as far as Mercury, there's some steps that you have to take before that with, getting an address down there.
Yeah.
There's certain ways around that, but
if you go through an E2 visa, if you're going to be serious and you go through an E2 visa process, you're going to get through that process, you're going to have to get an American address. You're going to do it all properly. So if you're going to commit to this, you can commit like you've done and just go for it the right way.
I'm all in now. And I mean, it got to a point where if we ended up with Trudeau again,
you could make a switch to the U.S. pretty easily.
Like that. I mean, my kids can live there. We can all live there now, legally. I have, American ID now. And
you have American ID because you got E2 visa status. So then does that lead to getting an American?
It's a process.
Yeah. Because I feel like there's some black holes in that process. When you ask some of these lawyers who get the E2 visa, you're like, how do you do this? And they're like, I don't know, just walk up to these guys and ask if they'll do it. Like how do you get your first US credit card? And it's like, well, I don't know, just walk into the bank, show them your E2, what did you say, the EIN number or whatever, and see if they'll give you one. And I'm like, well, you don't know if they're going to give me one? They're like, no, just go and try it.
Yeah. Well, let's put it this way. You have to definitely get used to ignoring the word no.
Yeah, totally. Yes.
Right? Because there's certain, even people on when I went to get my social security number, I had to go down there 4 times. You know what I mean?
But you got it.
And ended up getting it. Yeah. It was just a very simple process after when you find the right person to talk to.
Yeah. Like anything.
Right? But I mean,
so you're fully set up. Good for you.
I'm there.
And you're going to continue. You've continued to buy properties there.
Yeah. The thing is, down there was the portfolio that I wanted to build up here. There's nothing holding me back down there. I mean, at this point, really, the only thing holding me back from like opening up the doors completely is the fact that I don't have a green card.
Got it.
Right? The E2 visa, yes, it does open up things.
Because you could work for your own corporation with the E2 visa.
Right.
But you don't really have the freedom to work for anyone or anything else.
But you can take care of that on your application when you...
Yeah, can you? Yeah. Your spouse can. Well, but you can't.
She
has more freedom than you have.
Which this is the thing. When I was talking to the lawyer that helped me with the E2 visa, she's like, "Well, maybe you should put your wife as owning real estate company
because it gives you more options." Yeah.
I have no limitations then.
Like, it's wild. Weird. I know it's wild. Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of misconceptions with getting the E2 visa as far as how much money you have to invest in there. Some people will tell you, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some a couple.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that much.
It's very gray. Yeah. It's more in the application than anything else.
Yeah, a proper application done well.
Exactly. But once you get that, you're not seen as a complete foreign national. Like if you wanted to go to a bank and you only had the EIN number, but you still were considered a foreign national. None of the local banks will touch you. I mean, even credit unions. You would have to go to a Chase, and then there's issues with that. But every little step that you take towards a full kind of integration into the American culture there opens up some doors, right? But experience, definitely leads lenders. So if we get back to that, they want to know, how many houses have you renovated in the last little while, in the last 3 years? They want you to list all that stuff.
Okay, so now that you have more and more experience down there, you're looking better and better to these people.
Yeah. Now, I mean, and one mistake that I made when I first bought one of my first properties down there was that I didn't realize there were minimum purchase prices that people will lend on. So,
So if you found a property for $5,000, they wouldn't lend on it?
no, they won't. I mean, I bought a house in Toledo off of Facebook Marketplace. They wanted $60,000 for it. I got them down to 45.
Okay.
And in my mind, the idea that I had was, I'll buy it for cash, renovate it,
Sure.
and then go and refinance, right, and get my money out. Well, I got them down to 45, and I'm thinking, oh my God, if I go and get a mortgage on this, 30%, what is that, like 14,000? How many times can I do this? I was giddy.
Got it. But then the banks wouldn't lend, or these companies wouldn't lend.
I go to my mortgage broker, and he's like, well, unless we can get the value up above 75,000 or better, I can't.
Yeah, it's too risky for them.
They don't make any money.
Yeah.
That costs and whatever. So most will want $100,000, or at least the ability to push it beyond the $75,000 mark. They want a minimum loan of, I think it's $50,000. So when you combine that with 30% down payment, it now becomes, man, that $45,000 house that is turnkey and in Toledo, where in the downtown core, you can find the majority of those properties down there under $80,000.
Got it.
They look great, but if you can't get the leverage.
Yeah. It's like anything. I mean, in real estate, I think one course we took way back was like, if the numbers work, just buy it. But there's so many other variables and nuances to real estate investing. The lending, your exit plan, like what kind of tenants are you going to deal with? You get the contractors to do the right work in that area. What's the structure of the house looking like? We bought a property here in Hamilton once, and the numbers looked great. And then like 2 days after closing, we realized, well, it looked great because like everything needed to be updated in the property. And the guy was selling it for like this dream price to us. And we were just so enamored by what the spreadsheet was telling us that we didn't really bother to look at just the structure of the house. We didn't realize the foundation was going to be that old pebble base. I don't know if you've seen homes that aren't even poured.
Rubble.
It's like it's literally like stones that are just cemented together with what looks like mud, and that's the foundation of the house.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell did we buy? So there's just more to real estate. Like you and your example of that story for the $35,000 house you went through. You just kind of have to like learn as you go. It's more than a spreadsheet. You need some people to kind of just guide you a little bit, or you can at least shortcut your own success by getting some experience from other people.
Yeah.
So when you take people down, I'm curious, what is roughly, if you're buying a duplex for 170 at 30% down, I don't know the interest rate and the rents exactly on that property. Is there a cash flow number that you're just toy around with in your head that you could just give everyone as a ballpark on what those properties cash flow?
Well, I mean, you can really get some, I mean, mine are really up there now.
Okay.
When I first
give everyone, like someone starting, like what could they expect? Will it cash flow from day one?
A duplex now, at 7.5%, 8%, I would an easy $800 a month.
Okay.
American.
So, and no one's holding you that. I know we're generalizing here. $800 US a month on that $170,000 property. On your stuff now, because you bought them for a while ago, what were you about to say? That they're just cash flowing better because?
I really cherry picked, as far as
so you
what
worked to get the good price.
Yeah, I mean, I was finding some really interesting deals, mistakes that people had made with stuff on title. The best one, it's like right on the outskirts of an area that's being gentrified.
Okay.
It's called Coventry.
Okay.
And it ended up being, everything else in the area is a townhouse. Like they're semi-detached townhouses. Well, this one was put on title as a duplex, side-by-side duplex. It's all brick, beautiful interior. All we did was, freshen it up and put it out there. And I had both sides rented for $1,400 plus utilities.
Okay.
I was cash flowing almost $1,200 a month, on this particular property through Section 8.
Sure.
Now with the increase, because there is a cost of living increase that they'll go through, and they also take into account what's happening in the area. So my rents on that particular property have gone up per side $400 a month.
Oh, shit. Wow.
Like that. And all you have to do is apply for it.
Huh.
You know what I mean? Obviously, there's a business case that has to be maintained on the surface, but...
And somebody from this Section 8 or whatever comes by and puts their eyes on the property again?
Every year it's inspected.
Okay.
If you have a Section 8 tenant...
That's how it works.
Every year it gets inspected. for maintenance and whatnot.
Will you ever go outside of Section 8, or you found your niche now and you're like, I like this?
I like to focus. I learned early on in my career,
get good at one thing.
Get really good, go deep, and then once you have a strong base and your connections in the area, then broaden your horizons. I'm not one to all of a sudden go Airbnb, or just Airbnb.
It's funny how we all go through those phases. It's like it's like the evolution of everything in life. Like, I remember getting into real estate, and you try all these crazy strategies. Or I remember reading about sandwich lease options. I don't know if you've ever heard that term.
Yep.
But a sandwich lease option was like, you go to a landlord who can't rent out their property, and you say, I'll rent it out and give me the option to buy it from you in like 3 years. And then you go and advertise that property for a higher rent than you negotiated and a higher purchase price to somebody else who would rent it, do a rent to own from you. So you're like this middle guy in here. And so now no money down, you're getting monthly cash flow, and you have this like baked in profit. And I remember thinking, oh my God, this is like completely brilliant. But then after some time you realize, well, I didn't really have the right. Did I have the legal right to sell this home? Like, I didn't exercise my option, and now I'm giving somebody else the option. What happens if I can't close on the home to give it to them? And then like there's all these, is the landlord going to be okay with me having this tenant? Then you're managing this middle situation. You're like, okay, maybe that's not for me. And you kind of move on to the next strategy. And then over time you realize, okay, let's just simplify. Let's just buy good home. Yeah. That's how we came up with this whole good homes in good areas. Like, we did all these weird and wonderful things, and then we realized, how about we just get like good homes? Like, let's just do the basics. Let's just get a good home and have it in, we always said it had to be clean, safe, and functional. Let's make it clean, let's make it safe, and let's make it functional, and let's rent it out for like good market rent. And that became just like our simple go-to strategy in the end, but everybody goes through that evolution. And I think it's kind of what you also just went through into a new area. You started looking at all these different homes, these prices. You bought this first one that was a little bit like of a disaster, but in the end probably taught you all the lessons you needed to know to get to this point. So it's like anything you go into, I remember going into stocks the same way. I'm like, wait, I'll go into stocks, and then what's this option trading? Okay, I'll trade options, and I'll do this. And then I spent 2 years trading options, and I realized I was on a treadmill not getting anywhere. And my 30 minutes a day trading options, this is just me, I'm not speaking to everyone. I was supposed to spend only 30 minutes a day, like looking for my criteria. What was it? Like these, what are they called? Like MACD and 200-day moving average, these indicators. I didn't even know
differentials.
I was trying to look at all these different things. And I wasn't spending 30 minutes a day. I was spending like 24 hours a day looking at all this stuff. And then I had to get out of that. Yeah, I had to get out of that. Then I realized, just buy good companies and just hold them for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I feel like you went through that on hyperspeed here. You dove into a new area. You figured out all these things. And kudos to you, man, because you had some real estate investing experience, obviously, but you went into a new market. You learned the intricacies and the nuances of that market. And then there was the whole legal aspect of yourself as a legal entity in a new country that you had to figure out and navigate, and not taking no as an answer and driving down there and getting all this stuff done. So way to go, man. And you didn't really have a team, and like now you have people, but you went in cold. Yeah.
Now I've got a team that, they're rock solid, and, trust them implicitly down there.
Yeah, cool.
But it's still the case of trust but verify.
Sure.
Go down there on a regular basis. If things.
One of our best mentors told us, like, everybody ultimately goes bad at you at some point, even if they unintentionally go bad. They just maybe are retiring, so they're not doing what they're doing anymore. They're doing it at a different pace. So you just have to be ready for people to go bad at all times.
Yeah.
But when you do these tours down there, because now you're taking some people down there. So what is that? Twice a year you're doing it? And I know this is like a private thing where you're taking a small group so you can really be intimate with them and stuff. What is this all about? Like, how are you doing this?
Well, like every investor who's, this is what I do full time now, is buy property. And, ever since I sold my financial planning practice and the mortgage business, this is what I do full time, and I'm much happier about it. But like everybody, you get to a point where you run out of cash. You got to find investors. So with the growing interest, maybe you can attest to this with Florida,
Everybody wants some exposure to the U.S. All of a sudden, every Canadian, whether it's a vacation home or a rental, everybody wants exposure to the U.S.
Yeah.
Either it's a plan B to get me out of Canada, or at least get me exposure to the U.S. dollar if I'm just not leaving Canada. I'm going to stay here. It's one of those two.
Yeah. So I found that there's always one or two questions that are keeping you from pulling the trigger. And I help, other Canadians and whatnot go down there. But once you're down there, you realize just how much work it is. And, people that want to invest down there, but they don't really want to get in the car all the time.
Well, you got a family, you have a job here, you're busy paying the bills here.
Exactly. I become that joint venture partner or offer them an alternative to investing down there through, mortgages and things of that nature. But I still show them what they're getting into, because it is a different animal. I mean, we're lucky up here that, having the green belt and being on this island that we're at, there's not much that you can really go wrong as far as
it has been
buy something,
yes.
right? And you can make some money.
Yeah.
Down there, not so, because you're not going to get You're not going down there for appreciation. You're going down there for cash flow, first off. There is appreciation.
Which is how real estate investing, that's how we all started. It was like, what's the income and what are the expenses? That has been lost in the last 15 years.
Right. Knowing the area, having boots on the ground, those little nuances.
And it's tougher. You need to know those nuances because Cleveland has another city not too far away. You can go to Cincinnati. You can go to Detroit. You can go to Chicago. You can go to all these different areas. In Canada, in the Toronto, like you're saying in the Greater Toronto area, there's not like another big city. Like I guess you're going to Ottawa, but there's not like 5 other big options around Toronto that make some nuance to what is the dynamic for real estate in Toronto. It's like we have these 4 or 5 big cities here and they're all pretty far apart. So if you're in one, the dynamics you need to be aware of are just the basics. What's the supply of housing and what's the new demand of population? And that's it, really.
Yeah.
And the central bank, what are they doing with interest rates?
Yeah.
So we're looking at 3 variables.
And we have in my opinion, we have a better standard of living than the United States. Just looking on how people live down there, the quality of the construction that's happening. I mean, it's changing slowly.
Okay.
But even driving back, I was there actually just a few days ago in Toledo, revamping one of my rental properties, and my dad and I were talking. I'm like, man, you come over that border.
It is.
It's a different world, man. It seems like Canada is fresher.
Yeah.
As far as
agreed, I have the same,
right?
Especially when you're driving back through that part through Ohio, you're coming top of Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York into Ontario. Yeah, it's different.
Yeah. So
you can buy great fireworks though in Pennsylvania. There are those great fireworks stores. I'm pretty sure they're in Pennsylvania. You've never seen them.
You're coming through
the top of Pennsylvania.
Isn't there a reserve as you come through the?
Oh, I don't know.
Anyway, I've always bought fireworks at the reserve. So.
Oh yeah, okay. But I'm not saying I ever bought fireworks, but I just know that there are great fireworks there. But Canada does. It really hit me when I was like, because I have that experience of going to the U.S. and coming back here and looking around. But when I was in Dubai. That was the big one, because when I was in Dubai and I saw this pretty beautiful city that just emerged from the desert that shouldn't exist there, all built on oil. And then the guy in there telling me that Canada, like our tour guide, one of our tour young guys saying that, well, Canada has more energy than we do in the UAE. And I'm like, really? Yeah, okay. I guess I should have known that as like a Canadian, but I didn't. I knew we were high up on the list. I just didn't know we had more than you because I'm looking at all the money that's being spent here. And then you come back to Canada from Dubai and you look around and you're like, well, yeah, like we have all these trees and this fresh water and this energy and these minerals, and we got this big, massive country of it all, and we just can't seem to harness it. Like all we're doing. It hasn't
been unleashed.
It hasn't been unleashed. Someone just sent me a list of the top largest companies in Canada. They're the 5 banks. So we're good at making mortgages in this country. Why isn't an energy company top 5 in Canada? Like, how do we not have one energy company on the biggest company list in Canada, at least in the top 5? Just one. How is that possible?
Exactly.
So we are just financializing everything here, and the banks just are the winners. Like, it's just centralizing the power and centralizing kind of the monetary benefits of the system into these banks. Let's make real shit. Like, let's develop some of the energy capacity we have. Again, I'm not saying Dubai is the best, but it's actually giving me a new perspective for how great Canada is, but how it's also being used and it's almost being pillaged by the political class here. Like, let's get our act together. It's great here.
Mm-hmm. And
it's kind of pissed me off. Going on that trip made me fully respect Dubai and also made me have more admiration for how great Canada is.
It's almost like taking the blinders off.
It really was.
Right?
Yeah.
See what's up and like,
yeah. Like, this is a great country. And I just feel like this political class is just like, literally, I have no other word other than pillaging the country for their own benefit. Like, we are so rich that you can have a political class that does nothing, but the country is so rich and the people are so great that there's still enough money to make it work. Mm-hmm. But I think now we're hitting that inflection point where some decisions need to be made. And you have Trump down there now saying he's going to put tariffs on Canada. Let's face it, there's going to be some small and medium-sized businesses that's not going to be great for. Mm-hmm. And these are big employers in Canada. Like, we need to have somebody with a backbone that has a strategy beyond just some useless rhetoric. Sorry, I'm getting off track.
Hey, I mean, these are the reasons why I made the choice to look elsewhere, to give it a shot. You know what I mean? I went down there fully knowing that I might just be, throwing money into the toilet. Mm-hmm. But
good for you, man. You had guts.
What it ended up doing by doing business down there is like, there is an alternative.
Mm-hmm. Give you a sense of hope.
You kind of come back and say, Canada is only what, 2 to 5% of the world's economy. There's 95% of this ball that we live on that there's a lot more opportunity. And, it kind of, like you said, Dubai sprung out of nowhere. It's in,
like, there's a city out of the desert that shouldn't be there.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, people should be going, you know what? There's an alternative that if I don't like this, all I need is a different passport.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. You've created something pretty cool for yourself. Okay. So for anyone who did want to reach out to you, I know you're in your own world doing it, but you do these tours every once in a while. Is Instagram the best way? Instagram, Facebook?
Instagram or Facebook is probably at this point the best way to get in touch.
So what are the handles?
On Instagram, it's at Cashflow Carlos. All no spaces or underscores, just Cashflow Carlos. And then on Facebook, unfortunately, I got hacked, and I had to change it to Cashflow Carlos Official.
Okay, got it. So on Facebook, it's Cashflow Carlos Official. Yeah, all one word.
Yeah, if you don't see my face on there, it ain't it.
And TikTok or no?
TikTok, same handle as Instagram, at Cashflow Carlos.
Is TikTok still working in Canada? I don't even know.
It's still working.
It's still working in the US?
I think we got a reprieve for 90 days.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But in Canada, it's going to keep working. I just don't think it's going to have the same reach.
Yeah, got it. Got it.
But
and then when are you doing another tour down there with some people?
Yeah, the weekend. I think I'm going to be doing one the weekend before March break. Mm-hmm. Is the next one.
So like 6 weeks away, 5-6 weeks away, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll charge like $100, and that's more to if we need a bus or something like that, so that everybody can pile into the same car. Basically, I like to travel the day before, because even though it is 3-4 hours, depending on
it's nicer to be there, get a fresh start in the morning.
Fresh start. We start right at 9:00, and we bang out 14 properties.
No way.
Something like that. I mean, it's just we go.
Okay.
And we get as much in as we possibly can on that Saturday morning. Depending on who's there on the Friday night or Saturday night, we'll go and hit up a restaurant and have a good time. I've come to the point where if one of those nights we're going for like a seafood boil, And even those people that are just like, seafood, well, once you see this, that bucket in front of you with the crab and the lobster, it's so good.
You love it, eh?
It's so good. I'm never going to be a skinny man.
Yeah. Oh shit. Well, Carlos, man, thanks for sharing all this. You didn't really have to come and share all this stuff. This is a great help. I can imagine if I didn't know anything about investing in the US, just listening to your story already gives me a great head start. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for getting that fax blast way back when and coming to our
not blowing
information session. And I'm just proud that we turned the tables on you. You came to yell at us, and then you've been a Rockstar member now for like 15 years. So
I drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. No, but thank you.
Something special here.
Yeah. We're fortunate. I mean, honestly, it's just crossing paths with people like yourself and the group. There's a Rockstar as a whole. We're pretty fortunate, but there's also a core group within the membership that is a pretty special group. There's good people.
Yeah. If there's people, whoever's listening in on this podcast, if you get a chance to come to an event, really think about the VIP, even though, there is that, we used to have that 30 group, 30
it's
person
always
group,
like that. It's
it
always
great.
like that. Yeah.
But,
VIP is now about 180. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
But and then the platinum group, I was I think it was the second time you guys did the platinum group. I was part of that. That was fantastic.
Damn, I forgot about that. Yeah,
you chewed me out the one time.
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to show love. That's how we express our love.
Yeah, right.
We chew people out.
Why didn't you? Anyway, cool, Rockstar has been a great part of my business life, and hopefully you guys are here for a long time. Yeah. We have no plans to go anywhere. Maybe we'll spend more time in the U.S. and other places, but we're going to keep doing what we're doing. So not going to spend more time in Croatia.
Yeah, no. Well, we already do. So if I could spend even more time, then yeah. Let's take it up from a month. I want to go more. I think this year we're going to go back to Italy and then Croatia. I just love it. Yeah. When are you going to go to Portugal? You didn't talk about Portugal. You didn't talk about the Azores or the Algarve. Every Portuguese person I know is talking about the Azores or the Algarve. Listen, I went and I liked I went to Albufeira, but I really like this area called Lagos, Lagos.
Yeah.
That was a nice spot.
All I got to say is whoever starts an HVAC company up there bringing, fresh, cool air. I don't know if you'll make it.
Too hot for you.
Oh my God. It was, my kids went, they dance in a Portuguese folklore group here, and we were invited this past August.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
To go and do some festivals down in Portugal, and we were in the Algarve, and man, I've never experienced 45 degrees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a dry heat, but damn
hot. Yeah.
And we would get home at 12 o'clock at night, thinking, okay, it should be cooler inside the house. No. You feel like a turkey put into an oven.
I'll never forget, we were out on the Croatian Islands one year, and it was about 44, 45, and we were going out on a boat that morning, and one of the locals, we were in a little, I don't know what I was buying, some water or something, and she's like, hey, be careful. And when a local tells you that it's that hot to be careful out there, it got my attention. We go out on the boat. My wife's sister sits on the front of this boat for a few hours. And when you're out on the boat, you get that breeze. So you don't really know, you don't feel the heat, right? Because the wind's kind of hitting you. And that night she had crazy sunstroke. And I was like, holy shit. I was in the hotel room and I didn't check. I have no idea. It was a really nice hotel that we had booked on this island. It had no air conditioning. I had the little fridge open. The little bar fridge. I was sticking my head in the fridge, trying to close the door on my own head to try to cool myself down.
Yeah.
It was insane. It's that night heat when it doesn't cool down at night and it stays essentially the same temperature at night that you just can't believe it's happening.
Well, it's only the locals that they don't it's like, well, air conditioning. Why do you need air conditioning?
Yeah.
I noticed that the only people in Portugal that had air conditioning were people from Canada that were staying there had a house.
Your body's used to being in a nice climate at all times. The locals can handle it. But now we always check, man. It's the first thing I check, and it doesn't matter how nice the hotel is. Hey, is there air conditioning in here or not?
Yeah.
But Carlos, thank you so much. So at Cashflow Carlos on Instagram, Facebook, Cashflow Carlos Official, and on TikTok, Cashflow Carlos. Thank you so much. Depending on when this comes out, the tour, I said, maybe 5 weeks or so. It might be actually closer to like 3 or 4 weeks, depending when you're listening to this, but it sounds like the beginning of March sometime.
Yeah. And all you got to do is get in touch with me. It's typically about $100.
Yeah, cool.
And we have a fantastic time.
Yeah, awesome, man. Good catching up.
You should come.
One time I will come.
Yeah.
I know the area. I don't know when. I'm committing to too many
Even
things.
Even if it's just for the seafood boil.
Yeah. It sounds like it. Yeah.
People will kind of, there's some of my partners, they'll come down, they'll see the properties, and then they'll get right back on the highway coming back. And
that's a long day. That's a long day.
Yeah.
Nick and I have done that kind of stuff from there. It's a long day. But Carlos, thank you. Thank you.